The bell above the bookstore door rang softly as the last customer stepped out into the evening, the sound lingering for just a moment before the door settled back into place. Outside, the sky had already begun to dim into deeper shades of blue and gray, and a gentle rain tapped steadily against the windows, each drop slow and unhurried. Inside the bookstore, the air felt warm and calm, carrying the faint scent of paper, wood, and freshly brewed tea. The lights were low but welcoming, casting a golden glow across the shelves that lined the walls from floor to ceiling. The day had been quiet, just the way evenings in this small town often were. You stood behind the counter for a moment, listening. No footsteps. No voices. Only the rain outside and the soft hum of the old heater near the back wall. It felt like the right time to begin closing for the night. Slowly, you stepped out from behind the counter, your movements easy and unhurried. There was no rush here. There never was. The bookstore had its own rhythm, and evenings like this followed a familiar, comforting routine. You walked first toward the front windows, where a few lamps still glowed softly. With a gentle motion, you reached up and turned one of them off. The light dimmed, leaving behind a warm reflection on the glass. Outside, the street was nearly empty now, the wet pavement reflecting the glow of distant streetlights. The town always became quieter after sunset. As you moved along the shelves, your fingers brushed lightly against the spines of books, some new, some worn smooth by many hands over the years. Each book carried its own quiet presence, resting patiently, as if aware that it would be read again another day. Near the fiction section, a small cat lay curled on a cushioned chair, its slow breathing barely noticeable. It didn't stir as you passed. The warmth of the store and the steady sound of rain had already pulled it deep into sleep. You paused for a moment, taking in the scene. The wooden floors creaked softly beneath your steps. The air felt calm, settled. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. At the back of the store, you reached for a light switch and turned off another lamp. Shadows stretched gently across the floor, not dark or heavy, just soft and familiar. The kind of shadows that belong to a place at rest. You made your way to the small table near the window, where a mug sat waiting. The tea inside had cooled slightly, steam now faint and barely visible. You lifted it slowly, careful not to spill a drop, and took a quiet sip. Warm. Comforting. Simple. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, tapping lightly against the glass as if reminding the world to slow down. After setting the mug back down, you opened a small drawer beneath the counter and took out a notebook. The pages were filled with neat, handwritten notes, delivery dates, book recommendations, little reminders scribbled in the margins. You added one last line for the day. Then you closed the notebook gently. The clock above the doorway ticked quietly, each second passing without urgency. Time felt different here at night, stretching out in a way that made everything feel softer, lighter. You walked toward the children's section next, straightening a few books that had leaned against one another during the day. The illustrations on their covers seemed brighter in the lamplight, colors muted just enough to feel calm rather than lively. Everything had its place. One by one, you turned off the remaining lamps, leaving only the soft glow near the counter and the gentle warmth of the heater humming in the background. The bookstore felt smaller now, more intimate, wrapped in quiet. The cat stirred slightly, stretching before settling back into sleep without opening its eyes. You smiled faintly and moved toward the door, checking the lock with an easy, familiar motion. The bell above it stayed silent this time. Outside, the rain had begun to ease, falling more lightly now, as if even the weather was winding down for the night. You took one last slow look around the bookstore. The shelves, the shadows, the peaceful stillness. Everything was ready to rest. And as you turned off the final light, the bookstore settled into darkness, not empty, but calm, waiting patiently for morning. The quiet inside the bookstore deepened as the final light faded, leaving only the soft outline of shelves and furniture shaped by the faint glow from the street outside. You moved carefully through the space, letting your eyes adjust, feeling the familiar calm that always arrived at this hour. The store felt different at night, gentler, as if it had exhaled after a long day. You reached for a small lamp near the counter and turned it back on, just enough to guide your steps. Its warm circle of light rested on the wood, revealing the grain and the tiny scratches left behind by years of use. You liked this moment, this in-between space where the day had ended but night had not yet fully taken over. With slow, deliberate movements, you began your final walk through the aisles. Each step was quiet, careful not to disturb the stillness. The books stood neatly, their spines aligned, their pages closed in patient silence. Some of them had been here longer than you had, waiting through countless evenings just like this one. Near the back shelf, you paused and gently adjusted a book that had slipped slightly out of place. It slid back in with a soft sound, barely audible. You lingered there for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of paper and ink, letting it settle you even further. The rain outside had slowed to a light drizzle now, each drop softer than before. The sound drifted in through the walls, steady and reassuring. Somewhere far down the street, a car passed quietly, tires moving slowly over wet pavement, then disappearing into the night. You returned to the counter and lifted your mug again, taking another small sip. The tea was cooler now, but still comforting. You held the mug in both hands for a moment, feeling its warmth, letting your shoulders relax. The cat shifted again, stretching lazily before curling tighter into its spot. Its steady breathing matched the calm rhythm of the room. You smiled gently, knowing it would likely stay there all night, perfectly content. After setting the mug down, you reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small cloth. Slowly, methodically, you wiped the surface of the counter, not because it needed it, but because the motion itself felt soothing. Each pass of the cloth was unhurried, smooth, familiar. When the counter was done, you folded the cloth neatly and placed it back where it belonged. Everything in the store had a place, and returning things to where they belonged always brought a quiet sense of order. You glanced at the clock again. Time moved forward, but it felt gentle here, never demanding. The minutes passed softly, blending into one another. Walking toward the window, you looked out at the street. The town seemed to be settling into sleep. Lights in nearby houses glowed dimly behind curtains. A street lamp flickered once, then steadied, casting long reflections across the damp road. You stood there for a while, simply watching. There was no need to think about tomorrow yet. Morning would come when it was ready. For now, this moment belonged to the night. Turning away from the window, you made one last quiet check of the shelves, letting your hand trail lightly along the wood. The store felt complete, whole, as if it were gently holding its breath. You reached for the lamp near the counter and turned it off again, leaving the bookstore in near darkness. Only the faint glow from outside remained, enough to guide you without breaking the calm. As you moved toward the door, your steps slowed even further, each one steady and relaxed. You opened the door just enough to step outside, then closed it softly behind you, the bell remaining silent. The air outside was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of rain and wet earth. You locked the door with a quiet click, then stood there for a moment, listening to the night. The bookstore rested behind you, peaceful and still, waiting. And as you turned and walked slowly down the empty street, the town continued its gentle descent into sleep, wrapped in quiet, unhurried calm. The street stretched out ahead of you, calm and nearly empty, its surface darkened by rain that had washed the day away. Your footsteps were slow and steady, blending easily into the quiet of the evening. Each step felt unimportant, unhurried, as if time itself had softened. A few storefronts down the road still held dim lights behind their windows, but most had already gone dark. Curtains were drawn, doors locked, routines finished. The town knew this hour well. It had learned how to rest. You walked beneath the steady glow of street lamps, their light forming gentle circles on the pavement. Between each pool of light, the shadows felt calm rather than heavy, like spaces meant for quiet rather than mystery. The rain had nearly stopped now, leaving behind a faint mist that hung in the air and cooled your skin just enough to feel refreshing. Somewhere nearby, water dripped steadily from a roof edge, each drop falling with patient rhythm. It reminded you of a clock, but slower, kinder. There was no reason to count the seconds. As you passed a row of small houses, you noticed soft light glowing from a single window. Inside, someone was likely settling into bed, perhaps reading a few pages before sleep, or simply listening to the silence. The thought felt comforting. This hour connected everyone in its own quiet way. You continued walking, breathing slowly, evenly. With each breath, the day felt further away. Conversations, errands, responsibilities, all of it had gently loosened its grip. What remained was simple awareness, the sound of your steps, the cool air, the peaceful street. Eventually, you reached your own front door. You unlocked it quietly and stepped inside, closing it softly behind you. The familiar stillness of your home greeted you at once. The lights were low, the air calm, undisturbed. You set your keys down in their usual place, listening as the soft clink faded into silence. Your coat slipped off easily, hung neatly where it belonged. Small actions, done slowly, felt grounding, reassuring. You moved through the rooms without turning on any additional lights, guided by memory and the faint glow from outside. The floor felt cool beneath your feet. Everything here was as you had left it, waiting patiently. In the kitchen, you filled a glass with water and took a few small sips, the coolness refreshing but gentle. You rinsed the glass and placed it upside down to dry, aligning it carefully with the others. The living room felt especially quiet at this hour. You paused there for a moment, standing still, listening. No sounds. No movement. Just peace. You made your way toward the bedroom, moving slowly, letting each step feel intentional. The bed was already prepared, covers folded neatly, inviting rest without demanding it. Before lying down, you opened the window just slightly, allowing fresh night air to drift in. It carried the faint scent of damp leaves and clean pavement, a reminder of the world continuing gently outside. You settled onto the bed, adjusting the blankets until they felt just right. The fabric was cool at first, then slowly warmed, conforming comfortably. You rested your head on the pillow and let out a long, easy breath. The room was dim, quiet, safe. Thoughts drifted through your mind, but none stayed for long. They passed like clouds, slow and unimportant. There was nothing you needed to solve, nothing you needed to remember. Outside, the town slept. Inside, your breathing found a steady rhythm. With each breath, your body relaxed a little more, sinking into the mattress, letting go of the day completely. The world felt distant now, softened by night and silence. And as the calm deepened, sleep arrived naturally, quietly, like a familiar friend returning without announcement. The night continued to hold its quiet shape, unbroken and gentle, as your breathing slowed and deepened. The room felt still, as if it were listening along with you, content to remain just as it was. Outside the window, the faintest breeze moved through the trees, their leaves whispering softly to one another before settling again. Time no longer felt like something that needed attention. Minutes passed unnoticed, blending into one another without edges. The steady rhythm of your breath became the only marker of movement, rising and falling with calm consistency. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn sounded once, low and far away, then faded completely. It carried no urgency, only the reassurance that the world continued on quietly beyond the walls. Even that sound dissolved quickly, leaving the night untouched. Your body grew heavier with each slow breath. Muscles that had worked all day softened and released. Your shoulders rested fully now, no longer holding anything up. Your hands lay still, fingers relaxed, palms open. The air in the room remained cool and comfortable. With every inhale, it felt fresh, clean. With every exhale, warmth spread gently outward, easing any remaining tension. Thoughts surfaced occasionally, but they moved slowly, like leaves floating on water. A memory here, an image there, each appearing briefly before drifting away without effort. There was no need to follow them. They knew how to leave on their own. Outside, the streetlights continued their quiet vigil. Reflections shimmered faintly on the damp pavement, unmoving. Houses stood in restful silence, windows dark, curtains drawn. The entire town seemed wrapped in the same gentle stillness. Your awareness softened further, spreading evenly through your body. The weight of the blanket felt reassuring, grounding, as though it were holding you safely in place. The pillow supported your head just right, neither too firm nor too soft. Your breathing became even slower now, deeper, more natural. Each breath flowed easily into the next, without pause or effort. The rise and fall of your chest felt smooth, predictable, calming. The room seemed to grow quieter still, though nothing had changed. It was simply that your mind had settled enough to notice the depth of the silence. It felt peaceful, complete. Far outside, clouds drifted slowly across the sky, hiding and revealing the moon in unhurried motion. The night carried on its gentle routines without interruption, just as it always did. Your body continued to sink comfortably into the bed, fully supported, fully at rest. There was no need to adjust or shift. Everything was already exactly where it needed to be. A sense of ease spread through you, calm and steady. The kind of ease that comes when there is nothing left to do, nowhere else to be. The day had ended, and the night had taken over softly. Breath by breath, the space between thoughts widened. Silence filled in gently, not empty, but full and soothing. Your mind floated lightly within it, relaxed and unburdened. Sleep deepened gradually, naturally, without effort. It arrived in layers, each one softer than the last. Awareness faded, replaced by a quiet sense of comfort and safety. The world outside continued its slow, peaceful turning. Inside, everything was still. And in that stillness, rest settled in completely, steady and uninterrupted, carrying you smoothly through the night. The night remained calm and steady, stretching gently onward without any sense of hurry. The room around you felt settled, as though it had always been meant for this moment of rest. The quiet was not empty, it was full in a soft, reassuring way, like a familiar presence that asked nothing of you. Your breathing continued at its own slow pace, each inhale smooth and unforced, each exhale releasing a little more of the day. With every breath out, your body seemed to melt further into the bed, supported completely, held without effort. There was no pressure anywhere now, no tightness, no need to adjust. The faint sounds of the night drifted in and out of awareness. Somewhere far away, a tree branch shifted gently in the breeze. The sound was soft, almost imagined, and then it was gone. The air moved quietly through the open window, cool and clean, brushing lightly against the curtains before settling again. Time felt wide and open, no longer divided into minutes or hours. It moved like water, slow and continuous, carrying you along without resistance. There was nowhere it needed to go, and no reason to follow it. Your thoughts had grown quieter, slower, appearing only occasionally and without detail. They passed through like distant echoes, barely forming before dissolving again. You did not need to hold on to any of them. The night took care of letting them go. The weight of the blanket felt steady and reassuring, a gentle reminder of warmth and safety. It rested evenly across you, neither heavy nor light, simply present. The fabric rose and fell almost imperceptibly with your breathing, moving in harmony with you. Outside, the town remained asleep. Streets lay empty beneath the streetlights, their glow soft and constant. Houses stood still, roofs dark against the sky, windows quiet and unlit. Everything felt paused, not frozen, but resting between moments. Somewhere beyond the town, fields stretched out under the night sky, unseen but calm. Roads lay empty, trees stood quietly, and distant hills rested under layers of darkness. The entire landscape felt connected by the same gentle stillness. Your awareness drifted slowly, no longer focused on any single sensation. It spread evenly, like warmth through a room, touching everything lightly and then settling. Your forehead felt smooth, your jaw relaxed, your tongue resting comfortably. Even the smallest muscles had let go. Breathing remained slow and deep, flowing without thought. Each inhale brought a sense of ease. Each exhale carried away anything that did not belong to the night. There was nothing to replace it with. The space it left behind was already perfect. The bed beneath you felt solid and dependable. It did not shift or move. It simply held you, quietly doing its work. The pillow supported your head in just the right way, allowing your neck to rest without strain. The room's darkness felt gentle, never complete. Soft shapes remained visible, the outline of the window, the curve of furniture, the faint suggestion of walls. Everything was familiar, known, safe. Your mind drifted deeper, thoughts thinning until they barely formed at all. Awareness softened into something quieter, more distant. You were still present, still breathing, but effort had disappeared entirely. Outside, clouds continued their slow movement across the sky, unhurried and silent. Stars appeared and faded behind them, patient and calm. The night did not rush them. There was no schedule to keep. The sense of rest deepened further, spreading through you evenly. It was not sudden or dramatic. It arrived the way night always does, gradually, gently, without announcement. Your body felt heavy in the most comforting way, as though gravity itself had become kinder. Every point of contact with the bed felt supported. There was no need to move, no impulse to adjust. Stillness felt natural. Breathing slowed even more, settling into a deep, steady rhythm. Inhale. Exhale. Each breath smooth and complete. The pause between them grew longer, quieter, filled with calm. The room seemed to grow even more silent, though nothing had changed. It was simply that your mind had drifted far enough to notice the depth of it. Silence wrapped around you like a soft layer, insulating you from the world. Far away, the night continued its quiet routines. Lights stayed on where they were needed, off where they were not. Roads remained empty. Animals rested. Everything followed the same gentle pattern. Your awareness continued to fade, becoming lighter, more distant. The edges of thought dissolved. There was no effort to stay awake, no effort to fall asleep. The balance tipped naturally toward rest. Sleep settled in more fully now, steady and uninterrupted. It did not pull you down, it simply carried you forward. Awareness dimmed, softened, and then thinned almost completely. The night held you calmly, securely, as it always does. And in that calm, with nothing left to do and nowhere left to go, rest continued smoothly, quietly, carrying you deeper and deeper into peaceful sleep. The stillness of the night remained unbroken, stretching gently onward as if it had all the time in the world. Nothing pressed in, nothing asked for attention. The quiet felt wide and steady, like a soft horizon with no edges. Your breathing continued its slow, natural rhythm, each breath flowing easily into the next, unobserved and unforced. The room held its calm shape around you. The walls stood quietly, the floor rested beneath them, and the ceiling arched gently above, all of it familiar, unchanged, reassuring. Darkness softened every corner, rounding every shape, making everything feel more distant and less demanding. With each breath out, your body released a little more weight. Muscles that had already relaxed now rested even deeper, as if sinking into warmth. Your legs felt heavy and supported, your arms loose and still, your hands relaxed in their natural position. There was no tension left to notice. The air moved faintly through the room, barely enough to stir the curtain near the window. It shifted once, slowly, then became still again. The scent of night lingered, cool, clean, faintly earthy, mixing gently with the quiet warmth of the room. Thoughts no longer arrived in full shapes. They appeared only as soft impressions, incomplete and fleeting, dissolving before they could form into anything solid. There was no need to follow them. They drifted away on their own, leaving behind calm space. Time passed without structure. There were no minutes to count, no moments to mark. Everything blended into one continuous stretch of rest. The night did not measure itself. It simply existed. Far beyond the room, beyond the houses and streets, the land rested under the dark sky. Trees stood still, fields lay quiet, rivers flowed slowly without sound. Even movement, where it existed, was gentle and unhurried. Your breathing deepened further, becoming slower, smoother. Each inhale filled your chest comfortably. Each exhale emptied it completely, leaving behind a sense of ease. The pauses between breaths felt longer now, calm and effortless. The bed continued to hold you steadily. There was no shifting, no creaking, no interruption. It supported your weight evenly, allowing your body to remain completely still. The blanket rested quietly, neither warming nor cooling, simply present. Your face felt soft and relaxed. The muscles around your eyes were loose, your brow smooth, your jaw resting naturally. Even your tongue lay comfortably, no longer pressing against anything. Every small detail had settled into place. The silence deepened, not because sounds disappeared, but because awareness had drifted further inward. External noise no longer mattered. The world outside could continue without being noticed. Somewhere far away, the night sky slowly changed, though you were unaware of it. Stars shifted position, clouds moved gently, and the moon followed its quiet path. None of it required attention. It all happened without effort. Your sense of self softened, becoming lighter, less defined. The boundary between thought and rest blurred gently. Awareness floated, no longer anchored to any single sensation. Breathing remained steady and slow. Inhale. Exhale. Each cycle calm and complete. The body knew exactly what to do, and it did it without instruction. The room felt safe, settled, unchanged. Nothing would disturb it. Nothing needed to be prepared or checked. Everything had already been taken care of. Sleep deepened gradually, layer by layer. It did not arrive suddenly. It spread slowly, like warmth through water, even and consistent. Awareness dimmed without resistance. Any remaining thoughts faded into silence. Images dissolved. Words lost their shape. The mind rested just as fully as the body. Outside, the town remained wrapped in darkness and quiet. Streets stayed empty. Houses remained still. The night continued its gentle watch, steady and patient. Your body felt distant now, heavy and light at the same time. Sensation softened, fading into comfort. The rhythm of breathing continued somewhere beneath awareness, steady and reliable. There was no effort to remain present. No effort to let go. Everything happened naturally, guided by the quiet intelligence of rest. The stillness held. The calm remained. Nothing changed, and nothing needed to. And as the night carried on in its slow, peaceful way, sleep continued uninterrupted, deep and steady, holding you gently in its quiet flow. The quiet of the night continued without interruption, smooth and unbroken, like a calm surface of water that never ripples. Everything remained exactly as it should be. The room did not shift, the air did not change, and your body rested deeply within that steady stillness. Breathing moved slowly now, almost unnoticed. Each breath arrived gently and left just as softly, without effort, without thought. The body followed its own rhythm, ancient and reliable, needing no attention at all. Your awareness drifted even farther away from edges and details. Sensations blurred together into a single feeling of comfort. The bed beneath you felt distant yet supportive, like something solid and dependable existing quietly in the background. The blanket no longer felt like fabric, only warmth and safety. Time stretched on in a way that could not be measured. There was no before and no after, only this continuous, peaceful moment. The night did not rush forward. It expanded calmly, allowing everything within it to rest fully. Outside, the world remained asleep. The streets stayed empty, their surfaces drying slowly under still air. Trees stood motionless, branches relaxed, leaves resting without sound. Even distant roads remained quiet, free of movement. The sky continued its slow transformation beyond awareness. Darkness shifted almost imperceptibly, clouds drifting lazily, stars holding their places for a while before moving on. Nothing in the sky demanded attention. Everything unfolded gently in its own time. Inside the room, silence felt complete. Not empty, but full and settled, like a soft presence that filled every corner evenly. It wrapped around you, insulating you from any sense of urgency or thought. Your body felt heavier now, grounded and fully supported. Any sense of where your arms or legs rested had softened into comfort. There was no need to move. Movement felt unnecessary, distant, irrelevant. The muscles of your back rested fully, releasing into the mattress. Your chest rose and fell slowly, steadily. Your neck and shoulders felt loose, free of any lingering tension. Even the smallest muscles had surrendered to rest. Thought no longer formed clearly. If anything appeared in the mind, it arrived without words, without shape, then faded immediately. Awareness floated gently, unattached, calm. The night air continued to exist quietly around the house, cool and clean. It pressed lightly against the walls, unmoving, as if holding the structure in peaceful stillness. Inside, the temperature remained comfortable, unchanged. Nothing asked for attention. Nothing needed to be remembered. The mind no longer searched for meaning or direction. It rested naturally, just as the body did. Breathing continued, smooth and deep, like waves moving slowly across a quiet shore. Each breath followed the last with perfect ease. The space between breaths grew soft and wide, filled with calm. The room felt distant now, as though you were no longer fully inside it, yet still safely held. The sense of location faded, replaced by a gentle awareness of rest itself. Somewhere beyond the town, beyond roads and buildings, the land continued to sleep. Fields lay quiet. Hills rested beneath the sky. Rivers moved slowly, their motion unseen and unheard. Everything existed in harmony with the night. Your awareness dimmed further, like a light slowly lowering, not switched off but gently reduced. Sensation softened until it barely registered. Thought faded into quiet absence. Sleep held steady, deep and uninterrupted. It did not pull or push. It simply remained, carrying you effortlessly within it. The night remained calm, patient, endless. Nothing changed. Nothing needed to. And within that unchanging stillness, rest continued smoothly, quietly, completely, carrying you onward through the night without interruption or awareness. The night held its quiet form without effort, stretching gently forward as if it had no beginning and no end. Everything remained settled, steady, untouched by urgency. The calm did not deepen or fade, it simply stayed, constant and reassuring, like a slow tide that never pulls away. Breathing continued somewhere beneath awareness, smooth and automatic. Air moved in and out with perfect balance, neither shallow nor deep, simply enough. Each breath followed the last without pause, without intention, guided by the body's own quiet knowing. Your body felt distant now, as though it were resting far away, yet still safely supported. Sensation had softened into a gentle background presence. The weight of the blanket, the shape of the bed, the position of your limbs, all of it existed without needing attention. Comfort had become complete. The room remained still, unchanged. Walls held their place. Furniture rested quietly. Darkness smoothed every edge, leaving only the sense of space itself. Nothing stood out. Nothing called for notice. Time no longer moved in any way that could be followed. There were no moments to pass through, no sequence to observe. Everything blended into one long, continuous state of rest. The night did not move forward, it simply existed. Outside, the town remained asleep beneath the sky. Streets lay silent, stretching empty in every direction. Buildings stood dark and calm, their outlines softened by night air. The world had paused, not frozen, but resting deeply. Far beyond the town, nature followed the same rhythm. Forests stood quietly, branches relaxed. Fields lay open and still. Water moved slowly in places unseen, its motion gentle and unhurried. The entire landscape shared the same peaceful state. Your awareness drifted even further, loosening its hold on shape and form. Thoughts no longer appeared, not even as fragments. The mind rested in quiet openness, free from images, free from words. Breathing remained steady, flowing without interruption. Inhale and exhale blended into one another, seamless and calm. The pauses between breaths felt wide and empty in the most comforting way. The body continued to rest deeply. Muscles stayed loose. Joints felt supported. There was no tension left to release, nothing left to adjust. Stillness felt natural, effortless. Silence filled everything evenly. It was not fragile and could not be broken. It did not depend on the absence of sound, it existed on its own, complete and stable. Within it, everything felt safe. The sense of self softened further, becoming less defined. Awareness spread thin and light, no longer centered anywhere in particular. There was no inside or outside, no here or there, only rest. The night air continued to surround the house, cool and calm. It pressed gently against walls and windows, unmoving, steady. Inside, the temperature remained unchanged, comfortable and constant. Nothing needed to happen next. There was no expectation of change. The night was not waiting for morning. It was complete in itself. Sleep held firmly now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet presence of rest. The body continued its gentle rhythms without supervision. Somewhere beyond awareness, the sky slowly shifted, though it did not matter. Clouds moved. Stars changed position. The moon followed its path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained quiet, unaltered. Darkness stayed soft and even. The bed continued to support without movement. Everything stayed exactly where it was. Breathing continued, slow and steady, like a gentle current carrying you along. Each breath flowed without beginning or end, part of a larger, unbroken rhythm. The calm remained complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing pulled attention back. Rest continued smoothly, deeply, without interruption. And as the night carried on in its own timeless way, sleep remained steady and peaceful, holding everything gently in place, with no need for awareness, no need for thought, only quiet, continuous rest. The night remained exactly as it was, calm and unmoving, as though it had settled into a perfect balance that required no change. Everything existed quietly within it, supported and steady. There was no sense of passing time, only a gentle continuation of rest that flowed without interruption. Breathing carried on at its own pace, smooth and effortless. Air moved in and out softly, filling and leaving the lungs without notice. The body followed this rhythm naturally, needing no guidance, no awareness. Each breath blended seamlessly into the next, creating a steady, soothing pattern. Your body felt fully at ease now, resting so deeply that its shape and position no longer mattered. Sensation had faded into a distant softness. The bed beneath you remained firm and supportive, but even that awareness had grown faint, like a memory rather than an experience. The blanket rested quietly, unmoving, providing gentle warmth without weight. It felt as though the night itself had wrapped around you, holding you in a calm, protective stillness. Nothing pressed in. Nothing pulled away. The room stayed silent and unchanged. Darkness softened every surface, smoothing out corners and edges until the space felt open and gentle. The walls stood quietly, the ceiling arched above without presence, and the floor remained unseen and unimportant. Time no longer existed in any recognizable way. There was no sense of before or after, no progression to follow. The night stretched unevenly, wide and unbroken, like a calm ocean without waves. Outside, the town continued to sleep. Streets remained empty, quiet, and still. Houses stood dark and peaceful, their interiors wrapped in the same calm. Windows reflected faint traces of night light, but nothing stirred behind them. Beyond the town, the land rested as well. Trees stood motionless, branches loose and relaxed. Fields lay open and silent. Water flowed slowly where it flowed at all, unseen and unheard, moving with the same unhurried patience as everything else. Your awareness drifted further away from thought and form. There were no images, no words, no ideas forming now. The mind rested in a quiet openness, free from direction or intention. It did not search for anything. It did not hold on to anything. Breathing continued, slow and steady. Inhale and exhale moved together in perfect balance. The pauses between breaths felt long and empty, filled only with calm. There was no effort to breathe more deeply or more slowly. The body knew exactly what to do. The sense of self softened even more, becoming lighter, less defined. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear separation between body and bed, between inside and outside. Everything blended into a single, peaceful state. Silence filled the space completely, not fragile or thin, but full and stable. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed on its own, calm and steady, holding everything within it. The night air remained cool and clean beyond the walls, pressing gently against the house. Inside, the air stayed still and comfortable, unchanged. Nothing shifted. Nothing needed to. Sleep held you securely now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet presence of rest itself. The body continued its rhythms without supervision, without thought. Somewhere far beyond awareness, the sky slowly changed. Clouds drifted lazily. Stars shifted their positions. The moon followed its quiet path. None of it entered the mind. None of it mattered. The room remained as it had been, dark and peaceful. Furniture stayed in place. Shadows rested without movement. The night did not disturb anything. It simply remained. Breathing flowed gently, like a slow current carrying you without resistance. Each breath arrived and left softly, part of a continuous, unbroken rhythm that did not require attention. The calm stayed complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing pulled awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued smoothly, deeply, evenly. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained peaceful and uninterrupted, carrying you onward through the quiet hours with no awareness, no thought, only deep, continuous rest. The stillness of the night continued without interruption, as if it had settled into a form that would not change. Everything remained quiet, balanced, and calm. There was no sense of movement forward or backward, only a gentle continuation of rest that flowed evenly and without effort. Breathing remained slow and natural, happening entirely on its own. Each inhale arrived softly, filling the body just enough, and each exhale released with the same gentle ease. There was no pause that felt empty, no breath that felt rushed. The rhythm was steady, familiar, and deeply soothing. Your body rested fully now, supported in every place it touched the bed. Any awareness of weight or position had faded into a distant softness. Arms and legs felt comfortably heavy, as if they belonged to the bed itself. There was no distinction between where you ended and where the mattress began. The blanket lay quietly, unchanged, offering a steady warmth that neither increased nor faded. It felt less like fabric and more like a calm presence, surrounding you gently and evenly. Nothing pressed against you. Nothing pulled away. The room stayed dark and peaceful, its shape softened by the absence of light. Walls, ceiling, and floor existed without calling attention to themselves. Shadows rested without movement, smooth and unbroken. The space felt open, safe, and complete. Time no longer had any meaning. There were no moments passing, no hours unfolding. The night existed as one continuous stretch, wide and unmeasured. It did not lead anywhere. It simply was. Outside, the town remained asleep. Streets lay empty beneath steady streetlights. Buildings stood quietly, their outlines softened by darkness. No doors opened. No footsteps passed. Everything rested together in shared stillness. Beyond the town, the land followed the same gentle rhythm. Trees stood motionless, branches relaxed and still. Fields lay quiet under the open sky. Water moved slowly where it flowed, unseen and unheard, guided only by gravity and patience. Your awareness continued to drift farther from thought and form. There were no images now, no memories, no words. The mind rested in open quiet, unoccupied and at ease. Nothing needed to be understood. Nothing needed to be held. Breathing remained smooth and steady, each cycle blending into the next. The pauses between breaths felt wide and calm, filled with a soft sense of ease. The body continued its rhythm perfectly, without guidance or attention. The sense of self softened further, becoming lighter and less defined. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear inside or outside, no sense of location. Everything existed within the same calm presence. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile or thin. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding the night in quiet balance. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still, pressing lightly against the house. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. Sleep held firmly now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost completely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body continued breathing, the heart continued its steady rhythm, all without notice. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its slow changes. Clouds drifted gently. Stars shifted their positions. The moon moved along its path. None of it entered the mind. None of it mattered. The room remained unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested without movement. The night did not disturb anything. It simply continued, calm and patient. Breathing flowed gently, like a slow current carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left quietly, part of a steady rhythm that did not need attention. The calm remained complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing pulled awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued smoothly, deeply, evenly. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained peaceful and uninterrupted, carrying you onward through the quiet hours, wrapped in calm, supported by silence, resting without awareness, without thought, without end. The night stayed exactly as it was, calm and unbroken, as though nothing in the world wished to move or change. Everything remained held in the same gentle balance. There was no sense of progress, no feeling of waiting. Rest simply continued, wide and steady. Breathing flowed on its own, smooth and quiet. Each breath arrived softly and left just as gently, without effort or awareness. The body followed this rhythm naturally, as it always had, needing no attention and no guidance. Your body felt fully settled now, deeply at rest. Any remaining sensation had softened into something distant and neutral. Arms and legs rested without weight. The bed beneath you felt solid and dependable, yet even that awareness had faded into the background. The blanket remained still, offering a steady warmth that never changed. It neither pressed nor lifted. It simply existed, calm and reassuring, like the night itself. The room held its quiet shape. Darkness smoothed every surface, rounding edges and softening corners until nothing stood out. The space felt open and gentle, familiar and safe. Nothing asked to be noticed. Time no longer existed in any form that mattered. There were no moments passing, no hours unfolding. The night stretched unevenly, without direction or destination. It did not lead anywhere. It simply remained. Outside, the town continued to sleep. Streets stayed empty, lights steady and unmoving. Buildings rested quietly, their outlines softened by the dark. No sound rose. No motion disturbed the calm. Beyond the town, the land rested as well. Trees stood quietly, branches loose and relaxed. Fields lay still under the open sky. Water flowed slowly where it flowed at all, unseen and unheard, moving with quiet patience. Awareness drifted even farther now, thinning until it barely existed. There were no thoughts forming, no images appearing. The mind rested in open stillness, unoccupied and calm. Breathing continued, slow and even. Inhale and exhale blended seamlessly together. The pauses between breaths felt wide and empty in a soothing way, filled only with calm. The sense of self softened further, becoming faint and indistinct. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear separation between body and bed, between space and stillness. Everything felt unified within the same quiet rest. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding the night in balance. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. Sleep held steady, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost completely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body breathed, the heart beat softly, all without notice. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its slow, silent movement. Clouds drifted lazily. Stars shifted their positions. The moon followed its quiet path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested without movement. The night did not disturb anything. It simply continued. Breathing flowed gently, like a slow current carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left quietly, part of a steady rhythm that required no attention. The calm remained complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued smoothly, deeply, evenly. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained peaceful and uninterrupted, carrying you onward through the quiet hours, wrapped in silence, supported by calm, resting without awareness, without thought, without end. The night continued to exist in its quiet, steady way, unchanged and unchanging, as though it had settled into a perfect stillness that required nothing more. Everything remained at rest, held gently within the same calm presence. There was no sense of direction, no movement toward anything else. Rest simply flowed on, smooth and uninterrupted. Breathing carried on naturally, deep and even, without awareness. Each breath arrived softly, filling the body just enough, then left slowly, releasing without effort. The rhythm was unbroken, steady and familiar, like a tide that knows exactly when to come and go. The body followed it instinctively, without instruction. Your body felt completely settled now, resting so deeply that sensation itself had softened into the background. Arms and legs lay heavy yet comfortable, supported fully, as though the bed and the body had merged into one continuous shape. There was no pressure, no discomfort, no awareness of edges. The blanket remained still, its warmth constant and gentle. It did not press or cling. It rested evenly, like a quiet layer of night wrapped around you. The fabric no longer registered as texture, only as comfort, steady and reliable. The room stayed unchanged, dark and calm. Shadows lay softly across surfaces, unmoving and smooth. The walls stood quietly, the ceiling arched gently above, and the floor remained unseen and unimportant. Everything existed without asking to be noticed. Time no longer held meaning. There was no sense of minutes passing or hours unfolding. The night did not advance or retreat. It simply remained, wide and open, without beginning or end. There was nowhere to arrive and nothing to leave behind. Outside, the town rested beneath the sky, quiet and still. Streets remained empty, stretching silently in every direction. Streetlights glowed steadily, their light soft and unchanging. Houses stood dark and peaceful, their interiors wrapped in the same rest. Beyond the town, the land lay calm and undisturbed. Trees stood motionless, branches relaxed, leaves resting without sound. Fields spread out quietly beneath the dark sky. Water moved slowly where it flowed, unseen and unheard, guided only by gravity and patience. Your awareness drifted further away from thought and form. There were no ideas forming now, no images appearing. The mind rested in open quiet, free from memory and anticipation. It did not search for anything. It did not hold on to anything. Breathing remained smooth and steady. Inhale and exhale blended together seamlessly, one flowing into the next. The pauses between breaths felt wide and soft, filled with calm rather than emptiness. The body knew exactly how to continue. The sense of self softened further, becoming lighter and less defined. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear distinction between body and bed, between inside and outside. Everything existed within the same peaceful stillness. Silence filled the space completely. It was deep and stable, not fragile or thin. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding everything gently within it. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still, pressing lightly against the house. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. The environment remained perfectly balanced. Sleep held steady now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body continued breathing. The heart continued its slow, steady rhythm. All of it happened without notice. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its silent changes. Clouds drifted slowly across the darkness. Stars shifted their positions gradually. The moon followed its gentle path. None of it entered the mind. None of it mattered. The room remained as it had been, calm and unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested quietly, untouched. The night did not disturb anything. It simply remained present. Breathing flowed like a slow current, carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left gently, part of an unbroken rhythm that did not require attention or control. The calm stayed complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued evenly, smoothly, without interruption. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. It did not hurry. It did not wait. It simply existed, steady and patient. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained peaceful and deep, carrying you quietly through the long hours of the night, supported by silence, wrapped in calm, resting without awareness, without thought, without end, as the world remained quiet and unchanged around you. The quiet of the night continued to hold everything in place, steady and unchanging, as though the world had settled into a deep, comfortable pause. Nothing stirred, and nothing needed to. The calm felt complete, wide enough to contain every breath, every still moment, without effort. Breathing moved on in its gentle rhythm, smooth and automatic. Each breath entered softly and left just as quietly, without drawing attention. The body followed this rhythm naturally, guided by something older and wiser than thought. There was no need to notice it. It simply continued. Your body rested deeply now, fully surrendered to stillness. Any remaining sensation had dissolved into a distant softness. Arms, legs, shoulders, and back all felt equally supported, as if the bed beneath you had learned your exact shape and was holding it without pressure. There was no discomfort, no urge to move. The blanket remained unchanged, its warmth steady and even. It rested lightly, neither heavy nor light, simply present. It felt less like something touching you and more like part of the quiet itself, surrounding you gently and completely. The room stayed dark and peaceful, its familiar shape softened by the absence of light. Corners blended into shadows. Surfaces lost their edges. Nothing stood out, and nothing needed to. The space felt open, calm, and safe. Time had lost all structure now. There was no sense of before or after, no awareness of how long the night had been or how long it would continue. The night existed as one continuous state, smooth and uninterrupted, without destination or direction. Outside, the town remained wrapped in sleep. Streets lay empty and still, their surfaces quiet beneath steady streetlights. Houses stood dark and silent, their rooms filled with the same rest. No doors opened. No footsteps passed. Everything shared the same gentle pause. Beyond the town, the land rested as well. Forests stood motionless, branches relaxed, leaves unmoving. Fields lay open and quiet beneath the sky. Hills rested in darkness. Rivers flowed slowly where they flowed at all, unseen and unheard, moving with calm persistence. Your awareness had drifted far from thought now. There were no words forming, no images appearing. The mind rested in open stillness, free from effort and direction. It did not wander. It did not focus. It simply remained quiet. Breathing continued, slow and even. Inhale and exhale blended together seamlessly, without clear beginning or end. The pauses between breaths felt wide and soft, filled with ease. The body knew exactly how to continue, and it did so without interruption. The sense of self softened further, becoming faint and indistinct. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear sense of where the body ended and the bed began, where the room ended and the night began. Everything existed within the same calm presence. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile or thin. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding the night in perfect balance. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still, pressing lightly against the house. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. The environment felt settled and complete. Sleep held steady now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body continued its gentle rhythms without supervision. The heart beat softly and steadily. Breathing flowed on without notice. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its slow, silent movement. Clouds drifted lazily across the darkness. Stars shifted their positions one by one. The moon followed its patient path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested quietly, untouched. Shadows remained still. The night did not disturb anything. It simply continued, calm and patient. Breathing flowed like a slow current, carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left gently, part of an unbroken rhythm that did not require attention or control. The calm remained complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued evenly, smoothly, without interruption. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. It did not hurry. It did not wait. It simply existed, steady and enduring. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained deep and peaceful, carrying you quietly through the long, quiet hours, supported by silence, wrapped in calm, resting without awareness, without thought, without end, as the world stayed still and the night continued on in perfect, unbroken rest. The night remained steady and calm, holding everything in the same gentle balance, as though nothing in the world wished to disturb this quiet state. Rest continued without effort, wide and unbroken, flowing softly through every moment. There was no sense of movement forward, no feeling of waiting. The night simply existed, complete in itself. Breathing continued in its slow, natural rhythm. Each inhale arrived smoothly, filling the body just enough, and each exhale released with quiet ease. There was no awareness of beginning or ending. The breath moved like a soft current, constant and reliable, carrying the body deeper into rest without resistance. Your body felt fully settled now, resting so deeply that sensation itself had faded into the background. Arms and legs lay comfortably heavy, supported evenly, as though the bed beneath you had become an extension of your own stillness. There was no tension left anywhere, no pressure, no discomfort. Everything had softened and released. The blanket remained still, its warmth steady and unchanging. It rested evenly across you, neither pressing nor lifting, simply present. The fabric no longer registered as texture or weight. It felt like part of the calm itself, surrounding you gently and without boundary. The room stayed dark and quiet, unchanged. Shadows lay smoothly across the space, unmoving and soft. Walls and ceiling existed without presence, their outlines blurred by darkness. The room felt open and gentle, familiar and safe, requiring no attention. Time had completely lost its meaning. There were no minutes or hours to follow, no sense of duration. The night stretched endlessly, wide and unmeasured, without beginning or end. It did not lead toward anything else. It was whole as it was. Outside, the town remained asleep beneath the sky. Streets lay empty and still, their surfaces quiet under steady streetlights. Buildings stood dark and peaceful, windows unlit, doors closed. No movement passed through the night. Everything rested together in shared silence. Beyond the town, the land lay calm and undisturbed. Trees stood motionless, branches relaxed, leaves resting without sound. Fields spread quietly beneath the dark sky. Hills rested in shadow. Water flowed slowly where it flowed at all, unseen and unheard, guided only by gravity and patience. Your awareness drifted further away from thought and form. There were no ideas now, no images, no memories. The mind rested in open quiet, free from effort and direction. It did not search. It did not focus. It simply remained still. Breathing continued smoothly and evenly. Inhale and exhale blended seamlessly together, one flowing into the next without pause. The space between breaths felt wide and calm, filled with ease rather than emptiness. The body continued its rhythm perfectly on its own. The sense of self softened even more, becoming faint and indistinct. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear separation between body and bed, between room and night. Everything blended into a single, peaceful state of rest. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile or thin. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding everything gently within it. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still, pressing lightly against the house. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. The environment felt perfectly balanced, settled, complete. Sleep held steady now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body continued breathing. The heart beat softly and steadily. All of it happened without notice or effort. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its silent changes. Clouds drifted slowly across the darkness. Stars shifted their positions one by one. The moon followed its patient path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained as it had been, calm and unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested quietly. Shadows did not move. The night did not disturb anything. It simply remained present, steady, and patient. Breathing flowed like a slow, gentle current, carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left softly, part of an unbroken rhythm that required no attention and no control. The calm remained complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued evenly and smoothly, without interruption. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. It did not hurry. It did not wait. It simply existed, wide and enduring. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained deep and peaceful, carrying you quietly through the long, quiet hours, supported by silence, wrapped in calm, resting without awareness, without thought, without end, as the world stayed still and the night continued on in perfect, unbroken rest. The night continued in its quiet, steady way, holding everything exactly as it was, without pressure and without change. The calm felt complete and unbroken, as though the world had settled into a deep, gentle pause meant to last as long as it needed to. Nothing stirred. Nothing needed to. Breathing moved on naturally, slow and smooth, guided by the body alone. Each breath arrived softly, filled the chest with ease, and left just as gently. There was no awareness of effort, no sense of control. The rhythm existed on its own, steady and reassuring, like a familiar pattern that had always been there. Your body rested deeply, fully surrendered to stillness. Any remaining sense of shape or position had softened into something distant and unimportant. Arms and legs felt comfortably heavy, supported completely. The bed beneath you held everything evenly, without movement, without sound, as if it were part of the night itself. The blanket lay quietly, unchanged, its warmth steady and calm. It did not press or shift. It simply rested, a gentle layer of comfort that blended seamlessly with the stillness around you. Fabric, weight, texture, all of it had faded into a single feeling of ease. The room remained dark and peaceful. Shadows lay smoothly across every surface, unmoving and soft. Corners dissolved into darkness. Walls and ceiling existed without presence, their outlines blurred and gentle. The space felt open and safe, familiar and quiet, requiring no attention. Time no longer existed in any form that could be noticed. There were no moments to follow, no duration to measure. The night stretched on endlessly, wide and unbroken, without beginning or end. It did not move forward. It simply remained, complete as it was. Outside, the town continued to sleep. Streets lay empty beneath steady streetlights, their glow unchanged. Buildings stood still and dark, windows quiet, doors closed. No movement passed through the night. Everything rested together in shared silence. Beyond the town, the land rested as well. Forests stood motionless, branches relaxed, leaves still. Fields lay open and quiet beneath the dark sky. Hills rested in shadow. Water flowed slowly where it flowed at all, unseen and unheard, moving with patient calm. Your awareness drifted even farther from thought and form. There were no words forming now, no images appearing. The mind rested in open stillness, free from memory, free from anticipation. It did not wander. It did not focus. It simply remained quiet. Breathing continued, slow and even. Inhale and exhale blended seamlessly, one flowing into the next without pause. The space between breaths felt wide and calm, filled with ease rather than emptiness. The body continued its rhythm perfectly, without guidance or attention. The sense of self softened further, becoming faint and indistinct. Boundaries faded gently. There was no clear separation between body and bed, between room and night. Everything blended into one continuous, peaceful state. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding everything gently within it. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still, pressing lightly against the house. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. The environment felt perfectly balanced, settled, complete. Sleep held steady now, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded almost entirely, leaving only the quiet continuation of rest. The body continued breathing. The heart beat softly and steadily. All of it happened without notice. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its silent movement. Clouds drifted slowly across the darkness. Stars shifted their positions one by one. The moon followed its patient path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested quietly, untouched. Shadows did not move. The night did not disturb anything. It simply remained, calm and enduring. Breathing flowed like a slow, gentle current, carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left softly, part of an unbroken rhythm that required no effort and no control. The calm stayed complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake, no reason to dream. Rest continued evenly and smoothly, without interruption. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. It did not hurry. It did not wait. It simply existed, wide and patient. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained deep and peaceful, carrying you quietly through the long, silent hours, supported by silence, wrapped in calm, resting without awareness, without thought, without end, as the world stayed still and the night continued on, perfectly unbroken. The night remained calm and complete, holding everything gently as it always had. There was no shift in the air, no change in the stillness. Rest continued on its own, wide and steady, without effort or direction. Nothing needed to happen next. Nothing needed to arrive. Breathing flowed quietly, smooth and unbroken. Each breath entered softly and left just as gently, guided only by the body's quiet rhythm. There was no awareness of it now, no sense of counting or control. The breath moved like a slow tide, constant and reassuring, carrying the body deeper into rest. Your body remained fully settled, supported in every place it touched the bed. Sensation had faded almost entirely, leaving behind only a distant sense of comfort. Arms and legs rested without weight. Shoulders lay loose. The body felt whole and still, as though it belonged completely to the night. The blanket stayed exactly as it was, its warmth even and calm. It did not shift or press. It simply existed, blending into the quiet around you. The feeling of fabric had disappeared, replaced by a steady sense of ease and safety. The room remained dark and peaceful, unchanged. Shadows rested smoothly across the space. Walls and ceiling faded into softness. The familiar shape of the room no longer mattered. It existed quietly, holding the same stillness as everything else. Time had no meaning now. There was no sense of duration, no awareness of passing hours. The night stretched endlessly, without beginning or end. It did not move forward or backward. It simply remained, complete and whole. Outside, the town continued to sleep beneath the sky. Streets stayed empty. Lights remained steady. Buildings stood quietly, untouched by movement. Everything rested together, connected by the same silence. Beyond the town, the land rested as well. Trees stood motionless. Fields lay open and still. Hills remained dark and calm. Water moved slowly where it flowed, unseen and unheard, guided by patience alone. Awareness had softened almost completely. There were no thoughts, no images, no words. The mind rested in open quiet, free from effort, free from direction. It did not search. It did not hold. It simply rested. Breathing continued beneath awareness, slow and even. Inhale and exhale blended together seamlessly, without beginning or end. The pauses between breaths felt wide and calm, filled with ease. The sense of self faded gently, becoming faint and distant. Boundaries dissolved. There was no clear separation between body and bed, between room and night. Everything blended into one continuous state of rest. Silence filled everything evenly. It was deep and stable, not fragile. It did not depend on the absence of sound. It existed fully on its own, holding the night in perfect balance. The air beyond the walls remained cool and still. Inside, the air stayed comfortable and unmoving. Nothing shifted. Nothing changed. The environment remained settled and complete. Sleep held steady, deep and uninterrupted. Awareness had faded entirely now. The body breathed. The heart beat softly. All of it happened without notice, without thought. Far beyond awareness, the sky continued its slow, silent movement. Clouds drifted. Stars shifted. The moon followed its quiet path. None of it entered the mind. None of it needed to. The room remained unchanged. Darkness stayed soft and even. Furniture rested quietly. Shadows did not move. The night did not disturb anything. It simply remained. Breathing flowed gently, like a slow current carrying everything along without resistance. Each breath arrived and left softly, part of an unbroken rhythm that required no attention. The calm stayed complete. Nothing intruded. Nothing called awareness back. There was no reason to wake. No reason to dream. The night held everything gently, without effort or change. It did not hurry. It did not wait. It simply existed. And within that steady stillness, sleep remained deep and peaceful, carrying everything quietly onward, wrapped in silence, supported by calm, resting without awareness, without thought, until the night itself slowly, gently, came to rest.